And now, it's time for the Stain Game with your host, the one and only Justin Menezes.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time you're watching or listening to this. Greetings to you. My name is Justin, and this is my lovely wife, Athena Menezes, the queen, the one that you've heard me talk about before. And I thought it would be a great opportunity to bring her on and to provide a wife's perspective of what happens when a family begins a staining business and the different roles and different struggles that happens within that family while the husband or the wife, in some cases, is out taking care of business with running the business. So today we'll hear that perspective from the one and only, yours truly, Athena Menezes.
Well, thanks, Justin, for having me today. I just really want to focus today on remembering what we felt when we started the business. And I think initially we really were looking forward to some freedom, like free time with our family and vacations we could take together. And it wasn't like that for the first 7 years. So I think we're enjoying a lot more freedom now, but I just want to throw that out there right away and revisit it a few times as we visit today.
Yeah, so this is this episode, or the podcast itself, is not meant to be a lecturing series of this is how you do things or this is not how you do things, but instead a perspective, a real hands-on view or description of what actually happens, some of the struggles, some of the benefits, some of the blessings, and also some of the growing pains that goes on with running a business, being a husband, being a wife, being a caretaker of the home. And so we went over, Athena came up with some stories and some examples of things that we have dealt with personally over the years with starting a business from scratch and then getting to the point where we are now more experienced but still learning. A business is kind of like the Constitution. It's a living document. And so you may think you have your business down to a point and that everything is perfect with it, but you may think that. A lot of people will also counsel you that your business is constantly growing, constantly improving. There's needs for changes. There's needs for improvement. There's needs for implementing different things. And so this is not a how-to by any means, but more of some personal experiences that we went through that maybe some of you are going through. And it could maybe help you out with feeling like you're not the only ones dealing with these things, or that others have dealt with it. And so that was the intent of this episode. So Athena, where do you want to start off with?
So just with like a little outline, like we're going to talk about like some financial struggles that we went through initially, and then like how having a business can take an emotional and relationship toll on the family, and how we coped with those things, and then turn it around to like anticipating some of the great things that come from the business. And so first, with financial struggles, I just wanted to share a story. So Justin was offered to buy a business very similar to one he's running right now from our brother-in-law in about, I think it was like 2014. And no, it was like 2007 or something way back then. Anyway, and it was for $100,000. And I thought, why in the world would we go into debt to buy a business when we could start from scratch and try to avoid debt? And that's been our theme song. So we started out when Justin first started, he drove what car we had, which was a Honda Civic, and he tucked that huge power washer in the back seat. And he started working from this little, I think it was a 19, what year was it, Justin? It's little green.
1994, maybe?
Yeah,
93, like 94. a little 4-door green. I don't think it was a stick, but I think, anyways, just a tiny little car that has a hard time maybe holding a pressure washer and
200.
a big guy in it and a ladder.
I remember that there were customers that would comment on the big man coming out of the little car.
Or the clown coming out of the little car. I can be a clown, all right? So
Yes.
it's all right.
Yes.
In a good way.
And the
Not with-
ladder and wood.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Anytime he had a piece of wood, it was coming up to the dash all the way from the back of the car. It was dangerous.
Yeah. So, yeah, you make do with what you have, folks, right? One of the first maybe couple episodes discussed how, yes, I had a Honda Civic, and yes, it worked. It made, we were doing this part-time, I think, at the time. And we were trying to get out of debt and stay out of debt and not go into further debt by starting this new venture. And so, yes, we had a Honda Civic. And yes, when we would drive up, sometimes people would look at me and go, wow, I can't believe that guy came out of that car and a pressure washer and a washer and a ladder and a wand and hoses and a couple of 2x6 by 8 foot boards sticking out the back window with a rag on it, or, so anyways, not the best of circumstances, but we made it work. So continue on.
Yeah. And, I come from a family where my great-grandparents gave my grandparents plots of land, and they bought their shell homes, put it on with cash, put it on the land, built their homes from the inside out without debt. And so debt is something I really feel strongly about avoiding if we can. I remember there were times when Justin wouldn't talk to me about things. He'd make decisions like purchasing a truck without talking with me. It would just show up, and I would just brew and be mad. And I remember he bought a red truck that was, I think it was like $2,500 cash.
A piece of junk.
And I think we turned around and sold it as quick as we could, because I was like, we are not buying this truck. And it was, I think we sold it for $2,000 or something. Along the years, we tried a lot of different vehicles. We tried minivans. Typically, the old family vehicle became the work vehicle until we got the Ridgeline. And I thought we would share the miracle of the Ridgeline.
Yeah,
Justin.
before we go into that miracle, let me just let every male man out there is no car fairy that we could use as an excuse to why a car, truck, minivan suddenly just shows up. It doesn't work, folks. Doesn't work. So, learn from my mistakes is how I usually tell folks who ask me questions. Look, I've made plenty of mistakes. Let me share some of those mistakes so that you can avoid them. That would be one of them. Talk to your spouse. It may be painful. It may require swallowing some pride. It may require you communicating openly, but it is important to talk to your spouse, your significant other. Men, if you have a wife, talk to your wife. Women, if you have a husband and you're the staying entrepreneur who's running the business, talk to your husband about buying that vehicle. And it may not seem like a great idea at first, but in the long run, it is absolutely the right thing to be doing. So, yes, about the Honda Ridgeline. Do you want to keep sharing, and I'll just come in, or do you want?
We decided that a Honda Ridgeline would be the best type of truck, so we were looking for a Honda Ridgeline together. And I was busy. I was at the time going to PT school, and which is like a doctorate program full time, and trying to be a mom and very busy. And so I didn't have a lot of time to be looking around, but as I was driving one day to drop off my nephew, I saw a Honda Ridgeline on the highway. And yes, I took out my phone and I was just like snapping a picture while I was driving on the highway, and of the little sign that was in the window that said for sale and the number to call. I remembered it had a Colorado sticker in the back, and that was Army Green, and that was about all I remember about it. But I was excited to be contributing in some way to the search. He was spending hours on the Facebook Marketplace, and I was just like, oh, I see one here.
Yeah, and then it turns out that I was driving, maybe not on the same highway, but anyways, I was driving, and I saw the same Honda Ridgeline, and I took down the number, told Athena, she had told me that she had seen a Honda Ridgeline, and everything was lining up as far as color, for sale. I think we even mentioned...
You showed me the Facebook post.
Yes, that's what it was. So...
And it turned out to be the same vehicle.
We ended up...
And you had test-driven it that day, I think, or...
Yes. Yep. I think what happened was I found it on Facebook Marketplace, reached out, and set up a time to test drive it, and ended up test driving it. And then I think I called you and told you that it ran pretty good. And anyways, from there on, ended up being the right vehicle for us. And we ended up purchasing that Honda Ridgeline.
And it was like one of the first purchases we made together, where it was like something he actually talked to me about. So I feel like that was like the Lord blessing us, to kind of come together. Knew my circumstances, that I didn't have a lot of time, but that I wanted to be a part of the decision. And seeing it out on the road being driven was a good sign to me. That was a great functional vehicle.
Yeah. Yep. So one of those good moments where we did something together and we
did
were
it right.
unified.
High five.
No surprise car ferry vehicle showing up in the driveway or on the road and going, what is that? Well, I don't know. What is that? Let's go outside and take a peek at it. So yeah, it was a good experience. And as she mentioned, it was a blessing because it started cementing that foundation for other unification decisions, and where we do things together as a business and alleviate some of the stress that a lot of us will take upon ourselves in trying to limit our spouses or our significant others from having to deal with at the same amount of stress that we're dealing with. And so, yeah, that's a great story. I appreciate that story. Yeah. What do you have for us next?
Well, I have a friend who shares the obligations of like a business ownership with her husband, and their relationship is very different. Her husband is always calling her throughout the entire day. Can you pick up this for me? Oh, I forgot that. Can you do this? And she's running. She's got kids and she's running all around trying to do things for her husband. And when I see that, it makes me thankful for my husband. So yes, there have been times he hasn't talked to me about it. On the other hand, he doesn't ever ask me to do anything throughout the day. I'm basically business help. He calls me an owner, but I'm the helper only by like giving counsel and advice. I really have been blessed in that way, like where my husband he runs this very much like he says, he doesn't want to bother me, with those concerns and those worries. Sometimes it means he carries too much on himself.
Thus the broad shoulders. Important to have broad shoulders.
So I wanted to, again, reemphasize that it's easy to think that, to own your own business means that you'll have more time relaxing together and with the kids. And that's been false for us anyway for the first 7 to 10 years, but it is true now and becoming more and more true, I see in the future. One of the things that occupied our time when we were first starting the business is a lot of different ideas of home services that Justin could add to occupy the winter time, because Justin he loves working, and so being home in the winter is something that he just can't hardly stand. So he tried to do epoxy flooring. He tried to bid jobs for cabinet painting and power washing an airport parking lot. Like, these are just some nightmarish. I think there was a bar he was doing an epoxy flooring with, and it was like starting work at 3 a.m. and really bidding jobs that we had no business bidding. He didn't have a lot of experience in those areas. And snow removal. So we could talk about snow removal a little bit.
Yeah, so before we get to snow removal, some of you are probably wondering why she would say pressure washing an airport parking lot is something we had no business doing. Because some of you in the staining world have pressure washing as part of your business, and some of you, that's the majority of your business, and you're just getting into the staining world as a second option to the pressure washing. And so when she talks about pressure washing in an airport parking lot, I think it's important to let you know that we did not have a pressure washing rig or trailer like most of you have. We talked about that pressure washer in the back of a Honda Accord or a Honda Civic. Well, that's what we were using. We were using a DeWalt 3600 PSI, 2.5 gallon per minute pressure washer. And we did not have a surface cleaner. We were, with the wand, doing thousands of square feet with a pressure washer wand. So doing it incorrectly with without the proper cleaning solutions or materials. And so that's why it was nightmarish. We were not in any position, prepared, knowledge-wise, equipment-wise, to even be thinking of doing a project like that, let alone putting in a bid and taking on that bid to do that job. So that's just
But he got the job, right? That's what it was all about at the time.
And we did it. Oh, I don't think
Did you get paid?
I think, if I remember correctly, we got paid, but the amount of time that we spent and the amount of, time and hours, we didn't do the entire parking garage. I think we just did one level, and then we were done. There was no way of us completing it by the timeline that the company was asking for and the ability that we had. So I think we got paid for one floor and then decided there was no way we were going to continue doing it because of the amount of hours, because it was from, I want to say, 9 or 10 o'clock at night till 6 or 7 the next morning, and it was multiple days to do one level. And so, anyways,
yeah,
learning experience for the books.
But as I think about it, I think, it didn't once really occur to me to consider having a part-time job. That would have helped.
Yeah. So
we had children, and I was very busy, but just kind of unaware of the pressure that you were feeling financially.
Yeah. So a little lesson to learn, folks, is through that experience is make sure you have the proper equipment to do the proper job, regardless if you think you're leaps and bounds above what the next guy or gal might be doing. And this goes for men and women. And then also talk to your spouse. Again, I wasn't a very good communicator when it came to sharing with Athena the stress levels that I was feeling or the burdens of why I felt obligated to bid or try to do jobs like that. So communication is very important.
And so now we're going to talk about some of the emotional stresses that we experienced during those early times especially. And I hope that you can learn from our experience. So just a warning sign. If you are feeling short-tempered, having kind of explosive anger at your loved ones, it might be a sign of having anxiety or depression, and maybe it would be important to get some help from friends or a therapist if you can afford it. Some of the things that have been helpful to me lately is actually things that my daughter has brought home from the therapist, like a little handout that I read that I really like. It encourages me to ride out the wave of emotion. A lot of times emotions are very temporary and they last about 10 minutes. And if you just wait it out and ride the wave, sometimes then you can think a little bit more, or I can think a little bit more clearly. We had a particularly difficult time. It was like when Justin was working full-time at the post office, also starting the deck staining business. And so he's working a full-time job and a half. I had 5 kids and was homeschooling and pregnant. And the circumstances we
love children.
We do love our family. We love our family so much. And we did things at a certain time. It was in August of 2013 that we would never even think about doing it with clear minds, but with a stressed, exhausted mind, with not even like a hope in sight, we did some things that we really regret. And I really hope that this can be a warning voice. What would we have done differently to have avoided that situation, do you think, Justin?
Well, so I've discussed before very openly the importance of realizing if you are dealing with depression and making it known to others, to not just bottle it up and think that it'll disappear. And that is something that I have done and practiced for more than half of my life, is just thinking that if you are dealing with depression, anxiety, self-harm feelings, whatever stage you're in, that you could just swallow it up and no one can ever see the weakness. Or that's how I always looked at it also, was that it's a weakness. It's something that you shouldn't let out because you don't want others to think you're weak or you're lesser than someone else, right? And so if I could go back, that would have been something that I would have been working on much earlier in life, is acknowledging the need for help to deal with mental health, as well as to share with my spouse the struggles that I was having with anxiety, with depression, with anger or things that were leading to those outbursts or those moments that led to making bad life choices. And so that would be one thing that I feel like is very important is acknowledging that you do have a need for some help.
And so we went to our theological advice. I don't know what you call
Clergy?
Our clergyman. Yes, thank you. We went to our clergyman and talked with him about the things that we had done to be hurtful to our family, to each other. And he gave us some really good advice. And one of the things that he said was that Justin needed to be more involved at home, and that he pitching in with chores more often and sharing that weight at home that of those 5 children, and so also having one-on-ones with our kids. So spending time just with one child at a time and making our date nights. We had date nights, but they were 45 minutes long. We got away, tossed a football in a field or something, and went back home because it was just a very demanding household. We had 4 boys and a girl at that time, and another boy on the way.
Yeah, and it's, again, we are not lecturing. I hope that's not how this is coming across, but we are sharing some experiences that we have felt and we have learned from and are trying to better. Not that we are anywhere near perfect in doing these things, but some things that have helped us become better at life balance and especially family business balance. As a business owner, I believe we get caught up too often in trying to put all of our energy and all of our time and our focus to be successful in our business that we forget of the needs that our home has for us, whether it be, like Athena mentioned, our church leader counseled me to take more of a responsibility with simple chores around the house. And we forget about those things. We get caught up in bookkeeping and customer service, calling people back, setting up estimate times, selling jobs, doing the jobs that we forget that we have a home that really depends on a father, a husband to be there, to not just be a presence, but to be an active partner in the marriage and in the parenting aspect of not just for words of counsel, but actions, right? Actions speak louder than words. And so by doing dishes, whether you guys or gals do dishes or don't do dishes, it is important for your children to see an active parenting role where you are not just a voice of reason, but you are an example to that voice of reason. So by helping with dishes, helping with cooking, helping with story time, small and simple things that we take for granted are being handled and taken care of, can lead to your wife or your husband who is at home, who's also dealing with the stresses, the anxieties, the depression, the anger of having this large burden and dealing with it all by themselves, or feeling like they're all alone and don't have support from their significant other, their spouse.
I think over the years, and it really is a progression, a very slow progression that we've had, but as I reflect, we've become better partners in earning money. I'm sharing that load now as a physical therapist in the wintertime and at home as well. Justin is homeschooling with me, and while I work, or on the days that I work, he homeschools our boys. So we really are a partnership now in a lot of things. But like I said, it was years in coming. When I was in grad school, Justin really stepped up in making food for the family and taking care of the kids, picking them up on time, like from school. And so I'm very thankful for that support. And now in the winter time, when our business is not earning as much, then I can contribute during the winter time, and there's a lot less stress. But like I said, it was really a lot of years coming to this point, which leads us to, I think, the story about going to South Dakota for a triathlon in Hot Springs. We were on the way to the triathlon, and we had to stop an hour into our trip because of a customer.
Yes. So this happened a couple of years ago. And as Athena mentioned, we were all in the car, myself, the family, and we were about an hour, maybe out of Omaha already, heading to South Dakota. And we got a phone call from a customer, and the customer informed me that the employee that was on the job site had started staining and had everything there, tarp, stain, the whole deal, and had left the job and had not returned since he had left. And so she was wondering if he was going to come back or what we were going to do. And I tried, we pulled over, and I think we were at a little rest stop. And anyways, pulled over, talked to the customer, told her that I would try to figure out what was going on. And I did my very best to contact that employee to find out what was going on, if he was okay, if something had happened, or what the circumstances were from his side of the story. And long story short, could not get a hold of the employee and felt pressured by the customer to end the family road trip, have my family drive me back, and I was going to go to the customer's home and to continue working. I think this was a Friday, and so I was going to finish off the Friday there and then have to go back Saturday to finish the project. And got off the phone with the customer, heard what her concerns were, what her requests were, and then we counseled as a family of what we could do and how we should handle this. And then I believe we said a prayer also, and then felt inspired after praying about it to ask the customer if we could come back Monday, given the situation that I was already out of town, heading on a family trip, and that if she would be comfortable or okay with us coming back Monday. And so we did. That's kind of what we felt directed to do. Called the customer, explained to her that we were extremely sorry that this had happened, and that we understood her frustration and her concerns, and that I could reassure her that I personally would be back there Monday morning to handle what was not done and complete it, and to make things right, and if she would be okay with that happening. And then after the phone call, she was okay with us coming back Monday, given our circumstances and how our hands were tied with what happened with the employee. And so long story short, we were able to go on our family vacation as we planned, come back Monday or Sunday, and then Monday morning I went back out and took care of the job and made sure everything was good and looked as it should have, and smooth things over with our customer.
And when Justin says family council, it really means family council. Like, we hear everybody's voice, so down to the youngest child that can talk. At the time, it was our 7-year-old. Like, what do you think we should do? And we kind of talk it out, and our I remember our 17-year-old had her best friend with her. And those young girls, they got out of the car and they had their own counsel and their own ideas and their own like little brainstorm session. And I was so impressed with the solutions that they had. They had 2 or 3 options that they gave us. And I was so thankful that they took this sincerely. And that might take some time if you start having family councils, which are so valuable, especially with decisions that involve your entire family. They are educational for your family, for your children. They also lift the burden of decisions and creativity completely off of one person or 2 people. You involve everyone, and it really is, I feel like it's a very inspired way to make a decision. And that's what we've been doing. That's a pattern that we use with our family, is family council.
Yep. And to piggyback off of that, if you are a small business, maybe an owner-operator like myself, and you have children who are entering that age where they want to work for you or work, and you give them that opportunity, your children will find ownership if they are involved not just as a laborer, but also part of the family business, right? Now, I'm not saying that you ask your 15 or 16-year-old if we should buy, what kind of vehicle should we buy, right? Because they might want something that's not reasonable or work appropriate, a Mustang instead of a minivan or a pickup. So gauge the age of your children and how you're asking them to be involved in that decision making. But it has been a blessing to our family and our business when our children know what is happening with our business. Okay. And in that family council, that's an opportunity to discuss if the business is making money, if the business is breaking even, if the business is looking to hire, or if we need to get the word out. And you can hear small ideas come from the youngest to the oldest that will, as you brainstorm, will benefit your business significantly, whether it be from a great idea, whether it be from the council. If I remember correctly, my daughter and her friend brought up the idea of splitting up, some of us dropping me off and heading ahead, and them being willing to go along to help with the drive, because working late.
Or helping with the job.
Or yes, even helping with the job.
They were going to help you with the job.
You're right. Yep. So they were volunteering to go with me to go and stain so that we could finish it in a quicker manner than just having one person. And so again, each family is different. Each scenario and makeup of a family can be very different, but that just shows you that when you counsel with your family, whether it be purchasing a vehicle, whether it be a situation that comes up at work, you might think you have all the answers to the problem, but it may be that 17-year-old and her best friend who step up to the plate and are willing to sacrifice to go and get dirty and grungy and work with you and stain with you to ensure that we enjoy that family time.
Yeah, that shows you how much they love you and are ready to spend time with you, really willing to spend time with you. So,
and that only happens, right? Sorry to interrupt you. That only happens if you, as an owner operator, are spending time and building that bond, right? If I was doing like I was doing at the very beginning, working 12, 14, 16 hours and never being around.
A week. Just kidding.
A week. Oh, man. Now I feel bad. That's why I'm turning red. How dare you only work 14 or 16 hours a week? But yeah, so if I was still in that old habit of working all those hours and not building a family relationship with my children, it would be hard to expect that they would step up when I needed them when I'm not myself stepping up when they need me, right? And again, I am far from perfect in doing this, okay? But those are just things that we can all learn from and improve as we go along.
Okay, so what do we do to keep our marriage strong? So that has kind of changed over the years. We've always, some things haven't changed though. Friday night is date night. That is pretty standard in our home. It might be a Saturday night sometimes or a Thursday night sometimes, but only the rare exception, it's Friday night is our date night. We also we try to walk together, and with this very cold temperatures we are experiencing here in Omaha, Nebraska, that means we go to the base gym and the indoor track. That's what we've been doing lately. But we hold hands. Justin's a very physical touch guy. I have to hold his hand.
I love touching my wife, okay?
And sometimes my shoulder is like this, and it's not swinging, and I'm like, the physical therapist is thinking, oh, I'm gonna get like stiff here. This is just like let go for a little bit, but
Yep.
We hold hands, so that's important, and we talk. That's important to me. We try to talk to each other. I persuaded Justin last year to have one day off with me. 1 day a week. So the kids were at school, and we did one Friday twice a month where we had the day off together. And that was my favorite thing. That was my favorite day. I love spending time with my husband. But the outside pressures are real. I thought I'd bring this up right here. This audience. I know that how many jobs a day and how impressive he is doing 3 decks a day. How can you do that? And, his posts on Facebook. And I just want to throw in, as Dr. Menezes, put my physical therapy hat on here. Can we just accept our own best efforts? Why do we have to be supercharged with energy drinks? Justin.
So, not an excuse. How do I put this? So, in my defense, I'm not going to plead the fifth, even though that is available to all of us as God-fearing, red-blooded Americans, whether you're born American or naturalized as an American. What I will say is that, yes, sometimes the pressures, peer pressure never ends, folks. Whether you're a 16-year-old dealing with facial hair or lack of facial hair and feeling the peer pressure of why does Jose have a full-on beard or mustache and William has no facial hair but has some pimples, to a guy staining and people asking, man, how are you doing 3 to 4 decks? And you begin to feel a little chip on your shoulder and that peer pressure of having to fit that mold that you may find yourself in. And then as far as energy drinks, yes, energy drinks. I love energy drinks. I do. And I also know that they are not good for me. They're not good for you. And so it is something that I am trying to do better at with drinking less.
Drink some water.
By drinking more water, as the good doctor says.
Can I have some of that too?
Yes, water is good for you. And so, yes, I will do a better job at drinking less energy drinks and more water and still be able to do 2 or 3 or 4 jobs a day if I need to. So yes, she's absolutely right with that. I wanted to touch on one more thing on what Athena mentioned earlier that I feel is very important, and that is with taking time for yourself. Um, a big no-no that I have, and maybe some of you have, is that sometimes we feel like the work cannot go on if we are not there. Okay, and so a lot of times we love our employees. Okay, here at Making All Things New, we love Edwin. We love his wife and his little daughter. We look at him as a friend and almost a family member in a certain way because of how long we've known him and how we've seen him go in his ups and his downs and his progression, as well as his efforts into our business. And sometimes we forget that it's okay to take some time away from the business and give those individuals the opportunity to lead and to take on the responsibility without having us micromanaging or having to always be present at every single job. And I think it's a fear that we all deal with and struggle with realizing that we have some time. And it just takes a leap of faith to stand back and say, I'm taking this day off and see how things go. Now, as we have realized ourselves, there's times where we have absolutely no problem with taking a day off and things magically get done. Jobs get completed. Work stays steady. We don't fall behind. Other things that we have found is that sometimes Mother Nature, can play havoc with schedules, right? And so I have struggled personally with taking time off when maybe there's a rain day during the week, and then thinking that Friday or that day that we were going to set aside for each other now becomes compromised because we had a day come in that throws our schedule in an upheave. But again, it is something that I am personally working on, and that we are working on, is finding that time and that balance in our schedule and in our work to where we can take time to spend with one another, and also give opportunities for our employees to show that they can step up and that they can be put in positions of leadership.
Yeah. One thing, I just wanted to say it again, that if you're considering starting your own business so that you can have more time with your family, that is not likely to be true for the first few years. For us, it was 7 to 10 years. And now we do have more time with each other. And we're looking forward to going to visit his family, for example, in May, in Toronto and in the Azores. We're going to take our family to see our family in the Azores, and we really look forward to that.
And it should be a goal in your business. So when you look at short-term goals, 1 to 3 years or 1 to 5 years, if that's how you're setting your goals up, is to understand and really communicate and talk with your loved one about the time restraints, the time commitments that it does take. A business can overtake your life if you let it, and it did for us. Okay, so be aware that there can be a misconception of, oh, I'll start my own business, I'll have more time, I'll have more freedoms, more choices of when I work and when I don't work. And that may be true for some, but I believe for the majority of most businesses who start off, as Athena mentioned, it takes time to build business, to build your customer base, to build that revenue, to alleviate the stress of having a job-to-job income. for many years in our business, we thought on the outside we were making a lot of money. And then when we paid bills and the season ended, we had no money. And that was because we were so busy with working that we weren't looking at, were we saving enough? Were we saving for rainy days? Were we taking time to do simple things like a sport event where we would show up and both be there? So be aware, again, some of you, it may take only a couple of years to get to that point. Some of you, it may take years. And some of you, you're still struggling with finding that work-life balance. So don't be frustrated. Don't be, take your wounds and lick them and realize that you can make a change, okay? And that you can implement that today. And that's what it took for us. It took for us a life-changing, life-altering series of events for us to sit back and come together and realize we needed to change a lot. Okay.
And one of those things was a church class we took that was on personal finance in the winter of, it was like the end of the year in 2017 and the beginning of 2018. And in that class, I read a scripture that really hit home to me. It was John 10:16. I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. And as I considered, I thought we're definitely not living an abundant life financially. And so I knew that I was ready to make a change. My youngest child was 3 or 4. I knew that there was going to be a time when he was going to be going to kindergarten and that I could start preparing for a career. And so after consulting with a few people, I decided on physical therapy. I did not want to get my family in debt. Justin was 100% supportive of what I wanted to do. And I felt impressed by my Heavenly Father. He said that I should, and that even though it appeared I might be in debt, that He would take care of it. And so I started taking my prerequisites for applying to physical therapy school. I went to Metro Community College, junior college here, for a couple of years, and also UNO. And then I applied to PT school at UNMC, and I got in. I also was working for a full year at UPS loading trucks and saved all my money because my family wasn't used to me having any income, so I saved all my money. And I was able to pay for the first tuition, which was over $8,000. And I didn't have any financial aid because I had already used up my Pell Grants when I got my bachelor's, but UPS had 100% tuition reimbursement. So for my prerequisites, I also got those paid for by UPS. But grad school was still looking at us in the face, and it was predicted to be over $60,000 for the 3 years. And I'm here to say that I graduated without debt. It was definitely the Lord's hand and definitely a lot of hard work and determination from both Justin and I. We had loans. They were people, that I qualified for. And every year I said, I approved the loans, but I never cashed them out. I just said, we'll just have it here just in case we need them. And we never needed them. So it's really amazing how everything turned out. But I'm very thankful that I had 20 years as a stay-at-home mom, and now I can start my career as a physical therapist.
And let me just say, we have a few more minutes left here. The importance, again, of communicating with your spouse, your partner. One of the things that I've did a very horrible job was communicating the stress levels that I felt on my shoulders, being the sole provider. And I never once ever requested that Athena go get a job to help alleviate some of that stress or that burden. And I'm not on here to say that you should encourage your spouse or that you shouldn't encourage your spouse to work. What I am saying is that each of us have different situations that we are experiencing and living, whether it be number of children, if we own a house, rent a house, whatever the circumstances may be financially for each and every one of us. I would highly recommend that you sit down with your spouse and that you, the class that Athena talked about helped us understand this, see what we are earning, what our goals are, and where we want to be short-term, mid-term, and long-term, and how we together as a couple, as husband and wife, as boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever your situation is in your relationship, and discuss the situations that you find yourself in and how you can better that situation. It may be working part-time in the winter to make sure that you have an income instead of just relying on your savings that you earned during the staining season. It may be your spouse having to get a job. It may be you being a stay-at-home in the winter as a stay-at-home dad, and your spouse having a job where she's the primary breadwinner, but that you have a parental presence at home. Again, we're not telling you which way is better or which way works or doesn't work. What I will counsel or advise you to do is communicate, counsel with your spouse, and set those goals together so that what you're striving and achieve, what you're wanting to achieve, is known by your spouse, so that she's not trying to read your mind and be that mind reader that we sometimes feel like he can. Yeah, she better know what I'm thinking. I feel it. I'm really feeling it strong. Why isn't she getting it? Well, I never tell her anything, right? And vice versa. I cannot read her mind. I can't sit here and go, well, Athena thinks he's handsome. I know that to be true, by the way. But I can't read her mind without her telling me. Right? So the importance of counseling as a partnership, both for your family time, your spouse time, and your business, is super vital. You'll see a great benefit from doing that together. The other thing I wanted to bring up real quickly is that marriage or that one-on-one time with your spouse. Don't limit we were counseled to not limit ourselves to 45 minutes, to take the time to go out and court one another, to rekindle our relationship, to have her feel like I want to be with her and I want to spend as much time with her, and vice versa. I want her to feel like she wants to be with me and she wants to be at whatever event we're doing, right? We talked about throwing a football. We have done date nights where we go out to eat, watch a movie, go on a walk, go roller skating. You mix things up, just like you did when you were dating and wanting to fall in love with each other.
I even went to a WWE event.
Yes, and if this is the first time a lot of you have seen or met Athena, She is very anti WWE.
Monday Night Raw, isn't that where we did something like that?
We did go to Monday Night Raw, and it was pretty awesome. And it was one for the books.
I think Justin just sat there the whole time, like so quiet, like what is she thinking right now?
I thought at any given moment she was gonna get out of her seat and storm off and be like, "What the heck did you? Why was that?" It did not happen. Okay, but again, that's just a small way of her showing me how much I mean that she's willing to put aside something she would never do if she had a choice, but she knew I valued and treasured, right? And vice versa, go into things that she enjoys that I might not like so much. But we do it because it means a lot to the other person. So take the time, make the time to spend with each other, to spend with your children, to let them know that you are not just the breadwinner, not just a provider, but that you are their friend, their go-to, their love of their life with your spouse, with your significant other. So, Athena, anything else you want to close with or touch on before we call this an end to this episode?
Sorry, ladies, he's all mine.
It is just water. It is not Tennessee moonshine or Kentucky moonshine. I guarantee you. Let me take another drink just in case. Nope. It's verified.
Woo!
Water. So, folks, thank you so much. Athena, I appreciate you coming on and discussing your perspective of how things go with running a business in the beginning, midway, and as we continue to grow and thrive to do good things with our business, the positives, some of the struggles that we've had, some of the struggles that we continue to deal with, as well as just being willing to be on here and sharing your experience and your perspective and stories. I appreciate it. And to those of you who are watching, listening,
you're welcome.
That's all I've got for you guys. Thank you all for watching and listening. Till next time, this is Justin with the Stain Game and my special guest, Athena Menezes, and she does stutter every once in a while. Till next time, have a wonderful day.